You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Clean Comedy Podcast. It's James. Okay, if you look, I don't know if you guys are watching. If you're watching and it looks like I'm crying, it's not. It's allergies. I have allergies. I've taken like 4 different allergy medicines to try to like stop what's happening here. But I look like I'm also going to go eat a tub of ice cream after this and watch like The Notebook and cry. That's not what's going to happen. Just so you guys know, it's not happening. But I have a very special guest, very funny. We were supposed to do a show together due to the Southern California monsoons, which never happened. The show got rained out, so we didn't get to do it. But I kind of still stayed in contact and try to watch what's going on, because it's always amazing to find other comedians out there who you didn't know existed, right? Because there's so many of us sometimes that we kind of cross paths and we never know that the other one's there. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, hey, I've seen something of yours, or I've watched this, or, you know people by degrees of separation. So, so this comedian, she's done theater and drama. She's done commercials, film, television. She has a comedy special, RVs and Cats, on Amazon Prime, and her comedy album was released in 2021. She has a podcast as well called Drinking During Business Hours. That's on all the different podcast stuff. And she performs stand-up all over the country. And her show, Bottle Shot Comedy, is featured at the Hollywood Improv every single month. Please welcome the very funny, the very talented Sarah Halstead. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, James.
Yeah. It's weird that we get to meet, even though we didn't get to meet, type thing.
Yeah, exactly. This is cool. This is even better, because you know how shows are.
Yeah.
It's hectic, and you barely say 2 words to each other. So
you get to say like, hi, oh, what's your name? Okay, great. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Oh, what do you do? Okay, thanks. All right, I got to go write my set. I got to go do whatever. And then, yeah.
Exactly. Green room shenanigans.
Exactly. So for anyone who doesn't know you, I didn't get to watch your special before this. So I do apologize, but I am going to go watch it after this. I love watching other comedian specials because I think it's so awesome, because they always have like a unique voice and something that's so interesting. And you find something that you're like, I don't know if you do this, but every time I meet a comedian, I try to find a joke that I like of theirs that I know. And so I always do that. Like when I met Darren Carter for the first time, he has a joke where he does raps about like kids songs. So I related that to him, and he's like, oh, no one ever brings that up. And then I was like, oh, I love that joke. So stuff like that.
Darren's very funny.
Oh my gosh, he's the best.
Great. Yeah,
I'm lucky enough. I got to go on tour with him in Texas and stuff, and he did that joke for me. Like, he did it on stage, even though he hadn't done it in like I think he said like 10 years or something.
Oh,
he
that's
did it
cool.
just because he knew it was my favorite joke. So I was like,
that's
this
so
is great.
Cool. That's Darren. Yeah, he's a good one.
He's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you. How'd you get started in stand-up? All that kind of stuff. Kind of give us your origin story.
Sure. Well, I was an actor first in New York City. And I did a lot of commercials, theater, and television, which is like the trifecta for an actor in the Big Apple. But back then, film was the thing. Like, you wanted to be in a feature film. That was that was the goal of every actor. And I went to NYU Tisch, and a lot of my classmates were getting in, the movies, and they were featured in lead roles, and they were just like doing so well. And so I felt behind. I felt like I wasn't achieving. I felt like I just wasn't going to make it. I felt like a failure because, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I was doing so well. What was wrong with me? And my mother passed away. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan, and I was living in New York City. And so I went back to Michigan to take care of her in her final days. And I realized after her passing, we were really, really close. And I realized I just wanted to take a break from the drama, and it was only meant to be a break. But I got into the wine industry, and it felt good to have a steady paycheck. And before I knew it, I just got kind of caught up in it. And 12 years later,
wow,
I fell in love. I got married. We moved to Miami. Then I got into the champagne industry, And that I was just a very opulent life. And it was just, I was just kind of going through the motions of life. And then my marriage failed, and I was in Miami, and I was very, very unhappy. And I thought to myself, why am I doing this? I don't have to be here. So I liquidated all my belongings, rented a 30-foot RV, loaded my 2 cats in a coffee maker, and drove from Miami to Los Angeles about 7.5 years ago. And hence my special RVs and cats was born.
Wow.
And that's really what inspired that journey, inspired the special. I entrenched myself in stand-up comedy. I was a maniac about it. I mean, I had no stand-up experience. I just knew there was just something deep inside. I know it sounds so stupid.
Oh, no.
But I just felt like I could do it if I put everything into it, which I did. And I did like minimum 3 open mics a night.
Wow.
I went on comedy
in LA. In LA. Wow.
I went to comedybureau.com. So if anybody, upcomers are listening, and it's a phenomenal website that lists every single open mic in the city, and their time. And so I would time it. So, okay, I can hit this one at 5:30 and this one at 7 and this one at 9. Yep. And, and I would geographically just, make it so it could make, because there are so many open mics in this town.
Yeah.
And I did that for a minimum of 3 years.
Wow.
And at the 5-year mark, I did the special. Now, it really is, I really wasn't ready, and I didn't have an hour of material. 5 years isn't enough time, as you know. But it's a great little snippet. I only did 30. And it's a sort of like a one-woman show with a lot of punches.
I like that.
So it's really kind of a great little snippet of a comedian who's 5 years in. And I got really, really lucky because it dropped on Amazon Prime the day of the official quarantine.
Bravo.
So lucky. And so it did very, very well. And today it has 1.8 million streams, which is pretty good, for a first special. And Amazon Prime is a great network for just getting your name out.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you've now been doing stand-up for 7 years or something?
About 7.5 years.
Wow. Good for you. I feel behind. You're making me feel bad about my journey now. No, but really, that's the problem with comedians and actors and all of our artistic types is we start comparing ourselves to other people. They were doing this at this age. They were doing this over here. And
yes.
Yeah, and you're like, oh.
I know it's so hard. We inevitably compare, and so that's why social media is such a beast for. I know. For the ego and the heart and anxiety.
Yeah, we abuse ourselves. It's not like anybody else is coming up to us and be like, Bill Cosby or Jerry Seinfeld had all these shows that like blah blah. Like no one's doing that. We're doing it to ourselves. Like, oh my gosh, they had this and this and this, and and I'm still doing these clubs in the town or whatever. That's it. Like, yeah,
and it's not a rosy picture. I mean, it's not. It's a grind. It's hustling. It's just round the clock, just working and trying to get to that next level. Yeah. It's just it never stops.
It never stops. That's so good of you. The most I've been able to do, I've done 3 mics in a day, but not consistently like that because in LA, you can literally try to plan it out the best you can, and something is going to thwart you.
Oh, sure.
Traffic is going to ruin your day.
Oh,
You're not going to be able to do it.
And within that time frame, do I have some stories. I mean, I have been to the, mics where, I mean, really, really seedy, where you're just not really sure if you're going to make it out alive.
Yep. That's LA.
Yeah, characters.
Or you go to the open mic and it's like you and 2 other people, and you're like, "Is this the mic?" And they're like, "Yeah," and you're like, "This is it." Like,
that's
2 people.
it.
That's all. Wow.
And you wonder, it's like, well, what did you really get out of that? I don't know. And then the open mics just slowly transitioned into like bar shows.
Yeah.
And then the bar shows slowly transitioned into comedy clubs.
Yeah.
But it was a slow, and I still do bar shows if they're really good.
Yeah.
I just did one in Torrance actually, and I walked in the door. It's like the Twilight Zone. There were hundreds of people there. Paul Rodriguez headlined. I was like, where am I? And it was at a bar called the Ed in Torrance.
people are starving for comedy. Like that's the thing is people realized, I think people realized during the pandemic that life is too short to not enjoy it. And so I need to be out in the world doing stuff because I'm doing stuff that I wasn't doing before, you know? So it's like, you just have to go and live life. It's a weird
You got
thing.
it.
That 2 years of us being like smashed in the house, like stay in there. We're all now like, we want to be everywhere. So it's like, it's a weird thing.
It was really difficult to transition out of that. And, you know, it's not like riding a bike. I mean, I just like ate dirt again. I don't know about you, but
yes, no, I did.
Like,
I did Zoom shows. I don't know if you did any Zoom shows, but I did Zoom shows. And then I remember going back to my first show and it being like, this is weird. They're laughing in real time. Like, cause I got that mentality of like, I can wait for them to laugh and then do that. Yeah. So now I'm like, wait, what? You're laughing now? Okay, hold on. Like, it threw me off for a little while, but it was good.
Yeah, no, I want to say it took another year to get kind of fluid and confident again and to find that rhythm. Yeah, from like, because and then we were in denial. Remember that period? We were like,
they cut us off again. They're like, no, you got to go back.
Yes,
like, come on.
Yes. But no, it took a minute to get my chugga.
I remember that being the only time that I Karened out, like where I actually like flipped out on people. Cause it was like that time where they like shut it down for another 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. We're not doing 2 years and 2 weeks. Like, and I flipped out at somebody at the store. They're like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the world. Like, I apologize.
Everyone was at their wit's end and was tested, and it brought out craziness.
I know. I felt so bad. Like, I remember like literally like, I think it was like a month later, I saw that same person at the store. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I got really, and I'm very sorry. And it was not, I like apologized profusely again. Cause I was like, this is not who I am. I was just like bummed out again that we had like, it was like, when you're a kid and they said you can go play on the playground. It's like, you go to run out to the playground and they're like, all right, playtime's over. You didn't even get to do anything. You're like, I want to play. And then you got to come right back inside. It was that moment. And I was like, ooh.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope that person accepted your apology.
They did. They were very understanding. And I was so
person. I think more people need to apologize, right? It takes a big person to apologize.
Oh, I know I was wrong because I was just like, I was so like upset at that moment where like I just felt like, why? Like, we just did this. I don't want to do this again. It like ruined everything. Like, because right before the pandemic, I had stuff that was just like rolling along, everything. I was like, this is my year, right? That this is my year thing. And then it just, no.
Well, and right after my special was released, a literary agent from CAA saw it and contacted me and said, and packaged me with a director, and packaged me with a really big a production company, and said, why don't you readapt it into a half-hour multicam for broadcast? That was initially the goal. And we pitched during the heart of the pandemic and during BLM. We pitched virtually to all the networks, and it didn't go. And a lot of people are like, it would have gone any other time.
Yeah, that is terrible.
So it just, but for whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be. And now I look back, and it's like, that would have been, I wasn't quite ready for that. And I think that there's something else that's brewing that's going to happen. And everything, it's really cliche, but everything does. I believe that it's
100%.
We 100%. Can't control fate, and we just have to know, that when the time is right, it will happen.
Yeah. And you have a great like sense about you. So I think seeing you on TV would be awesome. I would love to. I would watch that comedy for sure.
And you too. You too. And I commend you, man, for being clean. It's hard. So what have you done? You like chose this as and kind of made it into a brand, and
Yeah.
because it's rare.
No, it's hard. It was one of those things where I wanted to be able to invite anybody to come out, like anyone ever to come watch me do stand up. And the first comedy coach I had kind of pushed me to do like a Andrew Dice Clay type character or whatever. Because I did MMA, I was a Navy guy. I'm kind of like that, like, you know,
Oh.
and I was younger and kind of like rigid and whatever. And so I hadn't really found my voice yet, but he was like, okay, you are this kind of person, so you can do these kind of jokes. And we wrote jokes, and I would do the jokes with my wife. Like, she was like, I don't like these. I don't like this. And I was like, okay, all right. So then I started to write jokes that I thought were funny too, because I like Pete Holmes absurdist kind of like, yeah, and Jerry Seinfeld. And I grew up on Cosby and stuff, but I also like really liked like Dangerfield and like Steve Martin and like Bob Newhart. So like silly kind of like not really like we talk about stuff, but not really talk about stuff type thing. Like I'm never going to go deep. You're not going to get like a Dave Chappelle philosophical.
Hey, everybody has their own thing.
Yeah. Mine's going to be a silly dad. Like you're watching a silly dad do jokes. That's literally what I do. So that's what I did. And like, just more people would be like, hey, I would love to come see you again. I love that you were clean. I love you. And it wasn't intentional at first. It was kind of more of like, I just wanted my kids to be able to come watch me and not like go home and repeat dirty jokes, you know what I'm saying, type thing. So I was like, I better do that. And then it just, more people were like, oh, I would love to come see. Oh, I heard that you're clean, right? Like you don't curse. And I was like, no, I don't curse. I don't do any of that stuff. And it was just like, okay, then it snowballed. And so my friend, who's no longer part of the podcast, sadly, my buddy Luke LaCoy, and I started the Queen Comedy Podcast because we met at the Queen Comedy Challenge, which was like done in like Pasadena. And then we started doing this podcast, and just we were like, how do we grow? And we're like, well, we should just ask other comedians what they did and their journey, and then record it and make it a podcast.
Yeah, that's the best part of podcasting, meeting everyone and inviting people that some are, I've had some luminaries, and that's just an incredible experience. Talk about learning. But I also, what's interesting is the episodes that get the most streams, it's generally not from the celebrities.
Yeah.
It's just like these really strange off the cuff episodes where, we're just like talking like you and me, and we're just like kind of getting into the nitty gritty of the hustle.
Exactly.
And those seem to be the one, like do you know Jay Washington?
Yeah. I love Jay.
Yeah. Whenever I have Jay on the show, and granted,
he's just lovable.
He's amazing. And granted, he does well, but he's not quite a household name yet.
He will be.
I believe he will be.
Yeah. 100%.
But man, the streams are just through the roof when I have him on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it's but what I love about it is usually, that relationship. I mean, this is bonding right now. Yeah. So, you keep that relationship, and you never know. It just opens doors. Work begets work.
Yeah. That's so funny. I would love a podcast with you and Jay. I'm going to have to go find that and listen, because that just seems like two completely opposite people. Like
maybe that's it. I don't know what it is, but people love us together.
Yeah. I could see that though.
Twice. And, and also, and another one that I had, maybe it's something about wrestling, because I had Chavo Guerrero Jr. on the show.
Oh, wow.
And that people are still listening to that episode. And I've had him on twice as well. So maybe it's that cult following within the wrestling community.
Yeah, wrestling's huge. Like my daughters watch wrestling. We watch wrestling together. So it's like something that like, funny. Yeah. But my daughters grew up watching, like my oldest daughter grew up watching MMA, because when I lived in Vegas, I did MMA and I worked with MMA fighters. That was what I did for a while. And so we would have MMA guys at my house, or we'd be out at stuff, or we'd like be at the gym and there's guys there. And so like my daughter grew up watching MMA, my oldest one. And then when one of my friends, Matt Riddle, went from MMA to WWE, I went back to watching WWE to kind of support him. And so my kids now watch WWE because of that as well. We watch UFC, not as much, but we watch a lot of that.
Dad guides them. I like it.
But it's actually funny, because they'll be like, hey, it's Monday, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like I'll be doing something. They're like, so yeah.
That's so cute. No, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then in let's see, when was it? Last fall, Rich, my fiance, joined me as my co-host, and it is so much easier.
Yeah.
Having a co-host, he has done nothing but make that just a enjoyable, because it's so much work, as you know, and it's nice to have someone that, and we get along swimmingly, and we work really well at the mic. So,
This is me and my old friend there. So I'm sad because it's on my desk, and I tell him that all the time. Like, this is on my desk to remind me, like, to keep going, because I don't want. He has a kid, so he's like, I can't do it anymore.
Okay.
I can't do
well,
whatever.
You never know. Yeah, I've taken breaks. I've co-created 3 podcasts now.
Wow.
So drinking during business hours, and then I had a podcast at the Comedy Store with Jimmy Shin, called Jimmy and Sarah on the Sunset Strip, and that went for a couple of years. Nice. And then I had a podcast with Daryl Hammond called The Summoned, the Summon, and the Summit. And that was political, and it just wasn't really me, but it was a great experience. And that was weekly live at the Hollywood Improv. And it was so much work. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, thank you.
So you've been an actress, you've done commercial stuff. Now, you talked about doing the multicam. Did you write the pilot for that? You like sat down and wrote a pilot?
Nope, it didn't get further than the pitch deck.
Okay.
It was a phenomenal experience, and now I know how that works.
That's awesome.
So it's and so now what I'm going to do is the next so plan B is I'm going to readapt it into a book.
Smart.
And I'm working on that now. And maybe that will have more legs if it goes anywhere in a published book form.
That's funny, because that's what I'm doing. I have a idea, like, because I liked Pete Holmes' Crashing. I don't know if you ever watched that series.
I love.
So it's like my favorite series. Sadly, I feel like it ended before it should have ended. But I have like a very similar journey for a lot of stuff that happened, but in different ways. And in LA is different than New York, so there's a lot of different things. But so I've been writing that out as like kind of writing the storyline as a book, but then also writing like episodes of this show. Perfect. So nice. That way I kind of have it. And then I'm hoping that I'll get the book done, and then I can sell that book at shows, or at least get it going or whatever and stuff. And then hopefully it'll get enough kind of heat where people go, oh, you have this book, it does well. Would you like to turn it into a show? I'm like, oh, I've already done that. Like, here's all the episodes. Here's all the stuff that I wrote,
Love it. Yeah, that's what you have to do. You just have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think you're really brilliant to continue on with the clean category. And, what I'm finding is someone gave that advice to me a long time ago. A lot of people actually did. Yeah. I think it's good. And now I tell beginner comics, I'm like, be clean, because it's so much harder. And then you're going to build your muscle more quickly.
Yeah.
Because if words with K are funnier, and it's really, really lazy to just throw in the F word, and you will get laughs if you throw in the F word every other. It's just a fact, right? So, so if you're clean, I just find those comics, and they're just going to be stronger. They're going to be, because you can't cut any corners. And so now I have a dirty show coming up.
Oh wow!
And I'm a little nervous. I have my first. It's called Dirty Church.
Okay.
And it's produced by David Smalley, very, very talented. And it's in the main room at the Hollywood Improv. Let's see, I'm doing it May 8th. And it's like, well, what? I can write some dirty jokes between now and then.
Yeah, of course. Well, you can always throw in a couple of dirty words into your already clean material. You know what I'm saying?
Just throw in the F-bomb.
Yeah. Just once or twice.
Overpronounce the
yeah. I've actually heard of like cruise ship comedians, because they're like, they want you to do a clean show and a dirty show, who are clean, that then when they go do the dirty show, they just throw in like one or two like bad words, and then that's it. Like, that's all I'd say. They're like, okay, I was dirty, technically they're
cool.
correct. So,
I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
And now Rich and I, for the first time, we're doing a tandem set on stage together.
Wow.
And we've done it twice. And the last time we did it, it was just really well received. And yeah, if we just really crushed it. So we're going to have that as an option, just try to mix it up.
That's so cool. I love that idea. Like, I would love my wife to do a podcast with me because I think like the conversations her and I have are very funny because she's very like smart and wise and not really a humorous person. But like our banter is funny together because we get like, I mean, we've been together like 20 years. So it's like we
Oh,
kind of
wow.
know each other and stuff and funny. So I'll say stuff or I'll do something and she'll like finish whatever it is. And we do that all the time. So I was like, man, that'd be great. But she's so shy that she's like, I would not in a million years will I do that.
Oh
So,
boy. Well, you're lucky. That's a good balance. You kind of want someone behind the scenes and
oh yeah.
you're in front of the house and she's,
Oh
that's
man,
good.
she's the best at that kind of stuff. Now, do you write as well? Are you like do you want to like be like a screenwriter or be like a TV writer, stuff like
Yes.
that?
Yes. So that's really, I feel like it, at my age, right? Past the age of 35,
I was
uh,
gonna guess 21, so that's not no.
it's really difficult to get those roles organically and to just be an actor.
Yeah.
So I've had this realization for a while that I'm going to have to create it. Like I've created all of my heat, right? And I don't even know, heat is a big word. That's an ambitious word. Everything I've done, I've had to create. So I had to create these podcasts. I've had to create this monthly show. I didn't create this special, the album, it's all just generated by unfortunately, I'm not one of those actors where I book a role and I show up and they dress me and they put the makeup on and I know my lines and then I eat the crafty. I mean, I wish that was my life, but and a lot of people, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to be my trajectory. So I'm just gonna, so to answer your question, yeah, I feel that I'm gonna have to create the show that I'm going to eventually be on.
That's awesome. That's the thing is then it's a tool. Well, one, it's going to be more important to you for it to do good, right? If it's just something that's not handed to you because I know you work hard, but it's someone who says, "Hey, we want to cast you in this," and you do it, you go, "Okay, great," and your level of investment may not be as high as if you put your heart and soul into it.
Oh, absolutely, right? Yeah. Yes. Someone I really admire that works so hard is Malik S. Do you know Malik? I had him on my show, and he's but yes, he is a writer for The Neighborhood. On I think it's
I
on
love that
CBS.
show,
and he's written himself into the show, and he's fantastic. He's magnetic. But yeah, I like to just pick the brain of people who are doing that, because that's a good, smart,
That's the way you do. And I've had a couple of those things where I've worked with people on pilots or worked on scripts for stuff, and we've got there and it's moving, and then it just dies, and you go,
oh, I know.
It's the worst feeling of going, we're almost there. This is it,
Oh yeah, I was devastated when my pitch didn't go. Yeah. Just it took me a long time to overcome it.
Did you know the day, like, when you walked out of the room, did you know it wasn't going to go, or did you like get a call later on, or how did that work?
No, I felt like it was going to go. I was really, really confident because I had Lionsgate. I was packaged with Lionsgate. I followed all of CAA's notes. I mean, it's CAA, it's Lionsgate. It's like, I thought just for sure it was going to go. So, and it's also a lesson to have multiple projects on the burners.
Yeah.
I just put all of my focus into that. And, if I had a backup, something else, okay, well, or like a script in my back pocket. Well, what about this?
Yeah.
That would have been so much better than to just not have anything to back it up. Just have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I've had the both sides of that meeting, the meeting where you think like, oh, this is it. And you like do the drive home, like the excited drive home, and you're like, so you're like putting the pop music going. You're like, yeah, this is it. Or I've had the one where like you have the meeting, it seems okay. And then like and you're ready, you're like pumped, you're excited. Like 5 minutes later, you get a call. They're like, hey, they just called me and said, nah, they're going to pass on this or whatever. And then it's like the sad drive home, like everybody hurts, it's just that moment, like sad. It's just all of that. It's like, man, come on.
But imagine my haters too, if that would have gone. My first time pitching and boom, I get it. Imagine
Good for
like
you. No. You
I
can't
would
let
have had
haters
no
win.
fans.
No, you can't let haters win. No,
There are so many haters.
there are, but you can't let
Oh
them
my
win. You just got to keep like pushing forward.
man, jeez, you're right. And not everyone can like you. You
Yeah.
got to just overcome it when you get those nasty little passive aggressive
Yeah.
comments from the peanut gallery, right?
I know it's so weird when you like want to be not that you like want to be like, but you try to be like a good person, and then like somebody like poo poos all over you, and you go, "What did I do to them? Like, I don't.
They
What's
don't
happening right now?"
exactly. Yeah.
The weirdest thing in the world. What would be your ideal thing if, like, besides your own project, like, if someone said you could do a movie, you could pick the genre, or you could pick like who you co-star with or whatever. Like, what would you want to do? Would you want to do like an action comedy? Would you just want to do a pure comedy, a dramedy? Like, what would be your dream?
Yeah, dramedy for sure. I love drama.
Yeah,
I mean, I love becoming that character
yeah,
in drama. So I've always thought one of the best shows was Shameless.
yeah,
And yeah, I think we just kind of that dirty, gritty. And I'm from Flint, Michigan. I thought, God, I'd be so great on that show. And every time I got an audition, it was for like like a Karen, like a buttoned up.
yeah.
I'm like, no, you guys are missing it. That's not me. I'm
Mhm.
gritty. But they always had me as like a buttoned up, white collar. Really. So it's interesting how people how they perceive you and
Yeah,
who you think you are inside.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do it like an hour dramedy. Yeah, I think that'd be
That's
fantastic.
that's a good one. And is that the kind of stuff you like to write too? You like to write like that kind of dramedy stuff too, or do you like
I
to
do.
write like?
I naturally write it. Yeah, it
Okay.
just kind of comes out naturally because as comedians, we can't help to have a little have it be a little punchy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I'm like a big action comedy person. Like, I want to do like a Bad Boys or like stuff like that, like or ride-alongs, like those kind of things. So I find those funny because in like being in the military and stuff, we have all these moments of like hyper intense whatever, but then you have to balance that out with humor and being like silly in of the other moments of like where you're serious and straight and like everything has to go a certain way. So I like those balance, and I think that life has kind of like stayed ingrained in me. Like, oh, we need to.
Oh,
It has to. You have to have humor in dark moments and stuff. And that's what happens too. Is like my gallows humor is really bad from being in the military and seeing terrible stuff, and then you just say stuff, and people go, "You can't say that," and I go, "Okay, I guess." Like, but we should. We need to laugh right now.
what military were you in?
Oh,
What which
I was in the Navy, and I did 2 tours to the Persian Gulf, one pre 9/11, and then one right after 9/11. We went right back. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
do you perform for the military?
no, that's one of my goals. I want to do like USO tours and stuff. Eventually, that's
Oh
what I want to do.
man, they
Yeah.
would love you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is a goal. I have like jokes about being in the military, and I'm expanding that portion and stuff. Mostly right now, I talk about my family, my kids growing up or whatever and stuff. So, but I want to do like more military stuff so I can kind of talk, because I would love to go. A lot of times when you're deployed, like, you feel like the world's moving on without you. Like the rest of the world is going forward and you're just stuck. You're stuck in this moment in time of being deployed and nothing is moving forward in your life, right? Like
Mhm.
all your bills are getting paid, all your stuff is happening, but nothing's happening in your life. Your life is just kind of like stagnant. And so I want to go over there and be like, hey guys, the world is not moving on without you. Like the world is not just like going on and forgetting about you. There are people back home who miss you and think about you every day. And even though you think they don't care or they're not worried about you or whatever it is, maybe they're not in communication with you every day. There are people that care about you. There are people that don't even know you that care about you, that want to make sure you're okay. So it's like, for me, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I think for everyone, especially when it's explained. Thank you for explaining that. I
Yeah.
never heard it quite that way before, and I think everyone would love to hear that.
Yeah.
And like and I know you don't want to get deep, but what you just like that was so deep and so personal. And if you just added like a twist at the end,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, that would make you, that's a huge commodity. Like people would want to hear that. That would,
Yeah. Why?
that's a great angle. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's your truth.
That's the thing. Like I used to say, like when we get deployed, people would say, "What's it like to be deployed?" And I was like, "Well, just imagine being in a garbage can for 6 months away from your family, and just then at the end of 6 months, you just come out of the garbage can, right?" And they're like, "Hey, I'm back, guys!" Like nobody ever knew you were like, everyone knew you were gone. You just had no idea where you were, what was going on. But then I realized we've all experienced the deployment now in COVID, like being locked
Yes.
away from everybody.
So people can relate it even a
Yeah.
little
So now
more.
people can relate and say, "Hey, you remember that time you spent in COVID? That's a deployment. Like you just don't get to see your friends and family. Sometimes you can text them. Maybe you might get to see them like on Zoom or a phone call or out your window, but that's it. Like you can't go hang out with them. Like it's exactly what it is. So
I mean, you don't have to perform in front of the military to do that material. I mean,
Yeah.
I just think that any audience would be riveted if you went there.
yeah, I should do. I don't talk about it because it's like one of those things. Where, like it has been hard to get people to understand the military mindsets that have never dealt with it before, never been around it. Because a lot of times there is just like this, like, well, you guys just go over the seas and kill stuff, and it's like, no, that's not what we do. Like, we're really like when you enlist, you're not thinking, oh, I want to go kill the world. Like I want to make sure that the people that I love at home are safe, and I'm willing to give up my life and my time to go make sure that those people can be safe and have all the freedoms that I enjoy. And then hopefully in 4, 8, 10, 20, whatever years, when I'm done, somebody else will step up and do the same thing. And it'll just keep going generationally, but that's not happening. And it's kind of a weird thing where they're saying the military numbers are down. And I'm like, what are we doing wrong? Because we should all be willing to say, hey, I love America. I love the freedom of speech. You don't wake up every day and worry if someone's going to kick in your door and drag you off to prison for saying the wrong, like that's not happening in America, but it's happening in other places in the world. It's terrifying.
Yeah, we need to resume gratefulness.
Yeah.
And you're right.
That's the word, gratefulness. I love that.
Yeah. And yeah, we forget and we get caught up in this. And yeah, it's not perfect.
Right.
But it certainly is better here than
and if you've never been anywhere else, you don't know. Like you go, well, it's not that great. I'm like, man, I have been all over the world, and I can tell you with 100% certainty, America is better than every other place. No offense to any other places. I loved a lot of places, but coming home, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being in America. And America has everything you could possibly want. Like all the stuff you want to see in the world, we have it, right? You want to go to cool beaches? Florida has like white sandy beaches and stuff or whatever. California has amazing beaches. You want to go to great, vibrant cities? You can go to New York. You can go to LA. You can go to Miami. You can, we have everything. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, we can do. Now, do you think maybe one of the reasons the numbers are down has anything to do with the aftermath and the aftercare for the vets that are not receiving, the medical treatment, mentally and other?
Well, I read articles of saying two things are the big problem right now. One, that people of military age are not physically fit enough, not mentally capable enough, and have more addictions than ever before. So drugs, alcohol, caffeine, and like all that kind of stuff, right? And then the other one is, yes, there is a fear that you'll go to the military and be messed up and then you won't be fixed. But there are a lot of things moving forward now that people have said, hey, we've got to fix this for the vets. I know, like they said the PACT Act. So if you were over during a certain time, and we saw this, like we'd watch big oil derricks in the ocean be on fire, just spewing black, gross, and it's hitting you in the face. You're breathing this in, right? You're outside, you're breathing this in, not thinking what's going to happen 5-10 years. But I have like sleep apnea now. And I'm not like, I'm in pretty good shape, but I developed sleep apnea from that. I have like migraines. I have all kinds of other issues. And I had no clue, right? I had no clue that was the reason. I was just like, oh, I'm getting older, or, oh, this, whatever. But I had sleep apnea at like 21 years old. Like that's not normal for a healthy, fit 21-year-old man. That's not a normal thing. So yeah.
Wow. So how are you now? Are you getting
I'm trying to get help and stuff, and we're trying to address all those things, but it's one of those things where it's just like it's hard. The other thing is I have I have like memory problems sometimes where like if I literally don't go over my material, I will forget like material, and it's weird. So I have to write everything down. If I don't write something down, it literally will go away. And it's just, I don't know. That's part of it too. It's just like, I have these issues that I like didn't realize were issues because I didn't really focus on them. But now it's like, oh, there's these issues and stuff there. So
I don't know though. The memory thing could just be, that
well,
could, I mean, so because I struggle with memory, and now I've researched that if you take turmeric with black pepper, you have to have cracked black pepper with the turmeric,
okay.
And they make it so it's, mixed together. Supposedly, it's amazing for memory.
Okay.
And I've been on it for a few years, and even if it's a placebo, I feel like I can memorize because I'm on this thing. So
yeah, I take like neurotropics for the same reason, like that kind of stuff too. So yeah.
But who knows? But yeah, I have a bad memory. I have to write everything down,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is your writing process for jokes? Are you one of the people that like sits down and makes time during the day? Are you a person who just like comes up with an idea and then sits there and talks it out or writes it out or whatever? Like, what's your process like?
Well, initially it just started like things come to me on the elliptical machine. It's really, really strange, but a majority of my jokes have been born on the elliptical, and I really love cardio and doing that. Like I try to do an hour a day on the elliptical, and so that's a lot of time. And even if I'm listening to music, for some reason, jokes will come to me, and I think it's just because the endorphins are going, and we're pretty happy. It's like, oh, that's funny. So what I'll do is I'll write down the premise,
okay,
like just a funny premise that I feel like I can work with. And then I just tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. And I love, a lot of people disagree with this. I love writing jokes on Twitter.
Okay.
I think it's the perfect, the perfect platform for constructing a joke, because a premise, setup, punch, and 140 characters or less is kind of perfect.
Yeah.
So I write a lot of my jokes on Twitter, and I just kind of tweak away at it. And I know, but they really let you know. And a lot of people are like, well, you don't want to burn your material on Twitter, but you can, and people are like, well, aren't you worried about stealing, other comics stealing your stuff? But you can prove that you wrote it. That's the stamp right there. So I've never, thought anything of it. I just love to write on Twitter, and then I'll try it out. If it does well on Twitter, then I'll try it out on the stage.
Have you ever I had this happen to me one time when Twitter was like really, really popular, like at midnight was around or whatever. I would write jokes on Twitter a lot too. And I did a joke one time and somebody goes, "Hey, I saw that on Twitter." And I was like, "Yeah, I wrote that on Twitter. Like that was my joke." Like,
wow. Wow.
So it's funny, like at the height of now, I don't feel like Twitter is like as big as it was.
No, I mean, people are falling off like flies. A lot of people just aren't using it, but I'm still on it. Change of hands, whatever. And I get I get the whole thing, what Elon is doing. I understand that he's trying to make money. It's his investment. I don't agree with everything, but I get that he wants to charge people for the blue check.
Yeah.
It's an investment.
Yeah. I think Instagram just instituted the same thing, didn't they?
I get it. But the only thing is, though, I still think that you should make it so it's like high profile, people that need to, because you need to stick with the definition of what verified means.
Yeah.
So I don't think they should let anybody do it, right, which they seem to kind of be doing. So
that's terrible. What is do you have like a everybody has like this like dream project that they want to do, the dream screenplay or the dream show or whatever. Do you have like one of those dream things that you've always wanted to do, like something that you like, maybe like an idea that you've like put out and you've like written it down, but you've just you're like, someday this will be the thing that I want to do. Do you have one of those?
I do. I have two.
Okay.
But the first one, I'm a classical pianist. I'm a classically trained pianist,
Wow.
and I don't play as much today. I just don't have time. But it used to just be my life when I was a kid and teenager, and early 20s as well. And I always thought I would love to write something where I could play the piano, and I've always been really intrigued with the stories of the composers back in the day. And Brahms in particular was really, he wrote the lullaby, da 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 da, and he wrote a plethora of other. He was really amazing. And 1896-ish is when, and he fell in love with Schumann's wife. So Robert Schumann, another huge composer, moved in with them under Schumann being Brahms's mentor, and they think that her ninth child was actually Johannes Brahms, and it's just so juicy.
Wow, this is juicy.
Isn't that great? Like what I would just love to write that story. And
you have to write that now. I want to read this dramatic version of this story. You have to do that now.
I want to be Clara Wake, Robert's wife. And what's really fascinating is Robert became insane, and he drowned himself in a shallow river. It just goes on and on and on. And he had really ginormous hands, and so I can't play Robert Schumann's works, but he was going insane. So what Clara Wake did is she would compose it and write his name to get the wages.
Oh.
So if I can play a Robert Schumann composition, I know that Clara wrote it because my hands are small.
Oh.
So it just, right? I don't know. I love that story.
That's so interesting. Wow. I learned something new today. Right? That's so cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. I should, definitely.
You should, because the Hamilton, Hamilton cheating on his wife and all this stuff became a big thing where somebody wrote a whole series, a love series about their love and all that up and down and stuff. So I mean, that's the thing is we don't know, when we're in history class, because I love history, when we're in history class, we get told a certain amount of it, but unless you dig deeper, you don't get to find all the juicy nuggets that. I never knew that. So
you have to do a lot of research.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and what's the other project?
The other project, I was in the champagne industry for a long time. So I have a script about, it's a sort of like a sideways, it's a slice of life, but in the Champagne region of France. So those, I don't think that movies or television about wine, having wine as the subject, I find that those shows are pretty boring. And they don't really go anywhere, and the viewer the demographic is narrow. But if you just do a slice of life, did you see Sideways by any chance?
Yeah.
So something in that tone, but about champagne and just an American that she gets in this situation where she becomes an ambassador, just like I did. Yeah. I became an ambassador to Perrier Jouet and Champagne Moom, and I'm from Flint, Michigan. I mean, it was just crazy.
That's funny. I had an old boss who owns, I think is one of the first or the first organic winery up in Ojai. So that I know nothing about wine, but every little bit I learned from him because I would go there and do stuff with him or whatever.
That's the same analogy as being a clean comic, to be an organic winery. It's so hard to produce good organic wine.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of stamina.
Yeah.
And patience.
It's hard. He said it was hard, but he owns a bunch of other businesses, but that's his love. Casa Barranca, if anybody's in the Ohio area. But he's
I will look into that. Yeah.
So he was my boss for years, and everything. I don't drink, so it doesn't matter. But everything I learned about anything about wines, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I had no idea. And this grape can be used, but this grape can't be used, and this acid. And it's okay. I just assumed a grape makes wine. I don't know. What kind of?
How was he your boss? Did you work for the winery? Or?
No, I worked for a company called Kavita. It's a probiotic drink company. So I was
Okay.
one of like the first like 10 people that there. And
Oh,
he was the owner, and then there was a
okay.
co-owner too. And so he owned the winery. He also owned Kavita, and he had some other projects. But I was basically his assistant. Like he was the CEO, so I was his assistant for everything. So I would have to like sometimes go up to Ojai and get stuff or drop things off or whatever, and then come back to Ventura and Oxnard and then go back. So I did all that stuff all the time, and it was great. I loved working with him, and it was like I learned so much in that small amount of time. Just
There's a
working with
lot
him every
to
day.
learn and wine. It's fun. And Ojai's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's so nice. It's and like hardly anyone knows it's there is the best part of Ojai.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's so
It's
much good
no
stuff there.
secret. Hmm.
That's awesome. Well, Sarah, it was awesome talking to you. Where can people find you? Where can they watch all your stuff? Where they can kind of go and see where you're going to be performing, all that kind of stuff.
Everything. I'm an Instagram person.
Are you okay?
Everything is on Instagram.
Okay.
It's in my stories. It's in my regular posts. My highlights within my stories, my link tree and my bio on my Instagram has all my shows.
Okay.
And then my website has everything. Sarah J. Halstead. And I'm Sarah J. Halstead on Twitter.
Okay.
And on Instagram, I'm just Sarah Halstead.
Yeah.
And then my comedy special is on Amazon Prime, RVs and Cats.
I'm going to go watch it right after this, everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then if you're
bet
local, if you live in LA, come to my monthly show at the Hollywood Improv called Bottle Shock. It's a lot of fun.
What days are those on? Is it like a consistent like third Sunday or something like that or whatever? Or what is it like on?
They keep changing my dates. The next date is May 23rd at 7:30, which is Tuesday. But I don't have consistent dates. They just throw in. They give me. I have to be pretty flexible. I got bumped for Dion Cole. Usually Sundays, but Dion, he took all the Sundays. So just stuff like that. You just kind of have to roll with it. But
I can't hate on Dion Cole. I love
him.
Cole.
I love him too. And the irony is, I'll probably be there, watching in the crowd. But so yes, that's my next show, May 23rd.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Everybody, thank you so much for checking it out. Please go watch Sarah's special. I'll put the links in the show notes so you guys can go watch it and click on it. Please go over to YouTube. I see that you guys are subscribing. Keep it going. Let's get to 1,000. Let's keep growing. I know all these podcasts going there. You can see my ugly face, but then you can see Sarah's beautiful face on this podcast. That's what you really want to see. I want to see my ugly mug. I get it. I'm okay with that. So like, subscribe, and keep listening. We really appreciate it. And reach out if you have any questions. I've been sharing the quarterly questions that I did on the episode with people. So if you want those, just email me. I'll be more than happy to send them over to you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
You're awesome. Thank you.